You know, there's a lot of talk about long passages about farming and how to educate the peasants and regiment life. And do they interfere with your enjoyment of the novel today? After all, it's not what we're accustomed to reading as contemporary readers. For me, it doesn't interfere because in every cathedral, no matter how beautiful, there are walls. The walls are both a backdrop and a framing for the beautiful stained glass windows. And for Tolstoy, the stained glass windows, the brilliance, the gorgeous beauty, is when he talks about what it's like to be in love.
What amazed me is how relevant Tolstoy could hit a business principle that we should follow in today's world, even though it was written 150 years ago. And as on page 15, when Arkadievich says when he was going into his work the first time and he was explaining things that he did there, and he said why he was successful at work, and he said the third thing, the most important, a perfect indifference to the business he was occupied with, owing to which he never got carried away and never made mistakes. And what a good business lesson that I think sometime in today's society, women, when we're trying to, climb that corporate ladder, we get too emotionally involved with a project and we own it and we become married to it. And in a real business world, you have to be able to distance yourself from it. So I thought that was an interesting point.
First of all, at the beginning of the book, there's this obvious irony, you almost hit you over the head with the irony, of Anna coming to Dolly to try to convince her to stay with her unfaithful husband, that she needs to find it in her heart to forgive him. And then just a few chapters later, Anna, of course, is the one who commits adultery. That she should have saved Dolly's marriage is a bit ironic. However, then you have to think about saved the marriage for what? And then you get, in chapter 23 in part 6, you get the comparison of Dolly and Anna. And Dolly comes to the conclusion that her life is better. She's satisfied. I think the reader is left to draw his or her own conclusions. Is Dolly better off, or is Anna? And I can't really answer that question.
And you see that this marriage is just really something special and meant to be. And it's such a fine contrast to the destructive relationship that you see Anna Karenina engaged in between both her husband and her lover. Both of these are leading to less and less love and more self-centeredness and less sharing. And Kitty and Levin are just a striking contrast. And it just makes each day that I pick up this book another adventure.
I was actually excited that I got to read this book now as I am older. If I had to read this in high school or college, I just would have went like this, blah, 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 and I would have put it down. But actually, when I started reading it, I thought, Anna's the same age as I am. She has children. I have children. I could identify with her. And it was just interesting to see what this woman did with her difficult situation, how she handled it, what women today would do in such a situation. So I guess what I'm saying is, as an older woman, I appreciated this much more than if I had to read this when I was in high school.
The characters are fully fleshed and fully formed, and all of them are not entirely good, not entirely bad. The male and the female, it's just an amazing thing that he was able to portray the almost cloistered lives of women in such a multi-dimensional way. And I have a quote that I pulled off my wall this morning that I think relates in some way to Tolstoy. It was in the 1975 Nobel Prize acceptance speech by Andrei Sakharov, so another Russian. But this just made me think of kind of my feeling about this book. We should not minimize our sacred endeavors in this world where, like faint glimmers in the dark, we have emerged. And I see that so much in the characters where they struggle and they have these base moments, and then they reason through these difficulties, and they're striving towards a higher realization, a more positive, a growth, and you see it in all the characters.
Very true to life.
Yes. It's a cliche to say there's nothing new under the sun, but it's really interesting because the problems that these people have had over 100 years ago exist today, and it's so interesting to go back in time and read about how they handled it back then and how society's pressures were kind of different. But basically the same problems have always existed. And Anna was just fascinating. Almost everyone I talk to, most women think that can somehow relate to Anna.
Well, Anna became a friend to me. It was sad when the book was done because she just became his companion wherever I was on vacation. I would say, "Where's Anna? Where's Anna?" Somebody said, "Where's Anna?" "Oh, Anna's out on the beach." And she was left out on the beach in the Dominican Republic. So it's like, got her back. Where's Anna? She's in the bathroom. I could definitely relate to her in so many different ways, and so many other characters too.
It was on page 195 that Vronsky first had the thought of living together with Anna. On page 199, he tells her his thought. On page 201, they discuss it. But it's not until page 698 that they actually do it. That's 503 pages of them just, getting to the action that started with the thought. What does this say to us? What this says to us is that Tolstoy believed it's all about the journey. It's not really about so much where you're going, but about the getting there.
The book, Anna Karenina, is Rosho, which means excellent in English, and I'm loving it. I really like the names in this book, and I felt a great sense of accomplishment whenever I would get a name down, like Princess Ekaterina Alexandrovna Sherbatsky, who marries Konstantin Dmitrich Levin, who's my favorite character. He is so true blue and has a heart of gold, and he's got the innocence of a child. And I just really like him the best of all the characters. And all the characters really come to life on the pages of this book, and I just love, we get to read about their facial expressions and their body language along with the dialogue, and their innermost thoughts too, which is really fascinating if you like psychology like I do. And it really made the characters believable and really come to life, can be really mean to each other and be false-faced. There's a lot of that in the book because they're aristocracy and they have this image that they have to protect. So that, I don't like that, but the book is wonderful. It's a wonderful.
Hey, honestly, the book, man, it just stirs up way too much stuff that's way too close to home. It really heightens my annoyance with anybody that's involved with adultery. Like, get a life. Stop destroying everybody else's. I guess it's gone on forever and it's still horrible. And I didn't like the book because some of the characters are so annoyingly self-centered. It reminds me of a quote I heard once, something like, the key to happiness is not having what you want, it's wanting what you have.
And a book you have to learn to love. It's great to a fault, but there's many advantages to this book that I'm just getting into, and I'm really enjoying it. The characters have so much to offer in this book, and you really walk away with a sense of you're learning and taking part in their journey, and that so far has been the best part of this book for me. I think Tolstoy really served up a winner on this one. Could even be an ace.
Oh, I think this is a great simile. This is in chapter 30, first paragraph. As definitely and invariably as a particle of water acquires the specific form of a snowflake in freezing, so each new person arriving at the spa was put at once into the place appropriate for him. I thought that was a wonderful passage.
I have a favorite quote in the book, and this is my absolute favorite line. You speak of energy. Energy rests on love. And isn't that so true? Love is at the absolute foundation of everything. Even energy rests on love.